Most Singer sewing machines have some type of overlock stitch that you can use to kind of prevent the fraying of the fabrics. You'll want to do this especially if you're going to be washing the item later. Otherwise, this is just going to turn into a lot of threads kind of getting tangled up. You need to do something to these edges. The machines these days have more than one choice. So for example, stitch number 8 right here on the front of the machine has a stitch that jumps over to the right. That's kind of what you're looking for. On this machine, the Singer Elite CE677, there's actually a few more right here on the area you can pull out. So let's talk about some of our other choices on this machine. You'll see when you pull this out, there's actually 2 levels of stitches, your alphabets, your decorative stitches. And I always think of kind of group 2 is a lot of utility stitches as well as some of our decorative stitches. So as we look at stitch number 03, you see that there's kind of some stitches that jump again to the right. 04 will stitch kind of off the edge, kind of giving you that stretchy finished edge all in one pass. And then you kind of start into more decorative stitches, but as you look, they can be used both decoratively and as an overlock. So stitch 11 would be another one that I'll sometimes use on maybe something that's a little thicker, fluffier, kind of like a toweling fabric that really kind of starts to stretch quite a bit. On the machine, it does tell you which foot to use, but I'm going to show you a little trick of another foot that came with this machine that you can use to help keep this stitch going right along the edge where you want it to stitch. Let's start with stitch number 8. You see that foot T, as in Tom, is recommended, and that's just the standard presser foot that you've probably been using so far. So I'm going to start with that one, then I'm going to switch to a blind hem foot that came with this machine that actually is a good option. The goal with this stitch is to actually have part of the stitch over the edge. So you need to guide the fabric kind of closer to the center where the needle can actually jump, and when it jumps to the right, it jumps over the edge of the fabric. I would recommend practicing just so you know like where to guide the fabric and kind of what you're going to expect when it's done. The nice thing about this stitch is it's secured the edges from unraveling. Now you can do this around a single edge of fabric before you sew it together, or sometimes if you've already sewed it together and then didn't realize this was a thing, you can always go back, put those seam allowances back together and sew it at the same time, kind of connecting all the edges at once. I mentioned another foot that came with this machine that you can actually adjust for easier guiding along this. Now you're right, this is not the foot it recommends, but look what we can do. We can actually adjust with this screw, this white guide to go left or right. Once you've stitched where you can kind of see how this stitch goes, go ahead and move this so you can then position it right along the edge of your fabric. Then you're not kind of guessing where to guide it, kind of down this partial, it's not centered, but it's not on the edge of the presser foot. You can just go ahead, touch the button in the back to switch the feet, lower the presser foot down, clicks in place, and here. Now we can use the same foot to be guided, and if you need to, once you get it in there, I think I'm going to move it a little bit more to the right. That way I can kind of get my fabric right where I want it to be, and then that stitch will be guided at the same distance for the whole entire length of fabric. So just note that not all feet have to be used for just their one use. That is one way that you can get a nice, perfect, even overlock stitch every single time. Try out some of the other ones that I pointed to in menu 2 and see which one you like based on the fabric you plan on using. Hey, we've got lots of videos on Singer machines, including the links you'll find in the description below, so you can start watching all the videos from the beginning in the playlist that we've created. I hope you enjoy sewing on your new Singer sewing machine.